Hey, good morning, everyone. What is going on? I hope you're doing well. Good morning from Canada, of course. I realize that all of us live all around the world and that it's probably a different time for you. In fact, I think for most people who will be watching me, it will be a little bit later in the afternoon, maybe even the evening time. And that means that you're all starting your weekend soon. It's a Friday, which is lovely. If you're watching right now, let me know in the chat room. Say hello, introduce yourself, don't be shy. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name is Jacob. I'm an online English teacher. And say hello, introduce yourself to everyone. We've got some friendly people watching. Gofran, hello, how are you? Vikan Lei from Vietnam, I assume. Good evening over there. Tahir is with us. What's going on, Tahir? I hope you're doing well. RJ, hello to you too. This is the second episode of my English Confidence series that I'm starting on YouTube. And I'm going to try to do this every week. We will see how that goes. I'm quite overloaded with work at the moment, and my mind is going a little crazy. So we'll see how that goes. But the idea is to do this once a week. RJ from Pakistan, awesome. Aram from Kurdistan. And Andia says, good morning from Europe. Where in Europe? Youngmi Park, good evening from South Korea. Good evening, Youngmi Park. Thanks for joining. And Vikan has school on Saturday. That's no fun. Are you a teacher, Vikan? Are you a student? Let me know. But school on Saturday, that really sucks. I would not be excited about that. All right, so let's get this started. We're going to do quite a bit today. Today's topic is how to stop overthinking everything. And what I did was I went and I found a blog post that was all about the topic of overthinking. So all of us have a tendency to overthink things in our lives, right? I just gave an example on a Facebook live stream about when I was younger. I mean, I still do this too, don't get me wrong. But when I was younger, when I was with my friends going to bars and trying to approach women, we would often overthink approaching women. We would start thinking things like, oh, what if she has a boyfriend? What if I say something stupid and embarrassing? What if I do this? What if I do that? And all of these things happen in our heads, but often they only happen in our heads. We make the situation worse. So we're going to talk about overthinking things, or rather how to stop overthinking things. We're going to look at one piece of advice from a blog article, and we're not just going to talk about the advice, but we're going to break down some of the language in the article. So you'll get to practice your reading. I have some questions for you too. We'll do a little bit of grammar practice, and we will talk about confidence, okay? Adriana, hello. I'm glad this topic helps you. It helps all of us, I think. And Vikan is a student who's going to school on Saturday. That's no fun. Okay, so let me switch screens here and we will begin. How to stop overthinking everything. And by the way, I'll keep an eye on the comments, but I'll try to. But there are certain points in the lesson when I'll stop and ask you questions. So if I say something that you don't fully understand, if you have a question about anything, just leave it in the comment section and I will try to get back to you later into the lesson. How to stop overthinking everything. Now, this article that I took, this section of an article, is from the popular blog Forbes. And I left the link to the full article, by the way, in the description if you'd like to read it. But this is one tip that the author of this article gives for stopping yourself from overthinking things. So I'm going to read it through all the way, and then we will stop and look at certain language points and certain parts of the paragraph. Telling yourself to stop thinking about something can backfire. The more you try to avoid the thought from entering your brain, the more likely it is to keep popping up. Busying yourself with an activity is the best way to change the channel. Exercise, engage in conversation on a completely different subject, or get working on a project that will distract your mind from the barrage of negative thoughts. Okay, so if this is complicated for you, if you don't understand everything, don't worry. We're going to go through this article bit by bit and try to understand it. So, let's start with the word backfire. Now, backfire is most commonly used as a verb, and we use it when we're talking about a plan that results in the opposite effect. So if you have a plan, if you do something and the opposite of what you want to happen happens, then you could say that your plan backfires. Now, I'm going to give you an example to make this more clear, okay? So here is a sad-looking man on the bottom of the screen, and let's read this example sentence. He didn't call her because he didn't want to seem desperate, but his plan backfired. He waited too long and she lost interest. Okay, so let's think about this situation. We have this man here. He is interested in a girl romantically, but he doesn't want to call her because he doesn't want to seem desperate. He doesn't want to bother her. He wants to seem cool and composed, perhaps. But so that's his plan. That's his intention. He wants to seem not desperate. But he waits too long and she loses interest. So his plan backfires. The opposite of what he intended to happen happened. So I want you to complete the dialogue here. Did you hear about Jill? No. What happened? She, blah, 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 blah. I guess her plan to ask for a raise backfired. So what are we talking about here? Well, to ask for a raise refers to asking your employee for more money. So when we want a raise at work, we all work jobs. When we want a raise, that means we want more money for the work we do. If you ask for a raise, you're asking your boss for more money. So try and fill in the sentence here. What happened to Jill? I want you to tell me in the comment section. And Vikon Lee says, I have problems controlling what I'm going to say, though. I can pluck up my courage to speak English in front of people, but it's even harder to control what I'm about to speak, I think you're saying. So you have problems controlling what you're going to say. Let me ask you, do you speak particularly quickly in English? A lot of English language learners do. A lot of English language learners speak quite quickly. And if you do, then my advice would be to try slowing down a little bit. When you slow down, you have more time to choose your words, you have more time to think about what you want to say. Many English language learners have this problem where they speak really, really fast. And learn English with James. I do not appreciate that. So, bye-bye to you. Okay? Vikan, yeah, kind of. Okay, great. Andia, she's going from this job. Let's look at that sentence again. Do you hear about what happened to Jill? No, what happened? She's going from this job. Going from this job. What I think you mean to say, Andia, is she was fired from this job. She was fired. She was fired from her job, you could say. So did you hear what happened to Jill? No, what happened? She was fired from her job, or as Alan just said, she was fired from her work. Perfect, yeah. That would make logical sense here. She was fired from her work. Good, she got fired or she quit. Adriana, she was dismissed or fired. Very nice. Dismissed is a nice word that we use here. Dismissed sounds very formal and polite, kind of. She was dismissed from work. Now, Fuang Fu, sorry for the mispronunciation, I'm sure, says she asked for a higher salary. That's what seems to be the case, but I already say that in the last sentence here. So I'm asking you to fill in what happened here. Why did her plan to ask for a raise backfire? Good. So Mai says she's in trouble. Vikan says she got the sack. Very good. So there's a nice idiom that you can use to say that she got fired. Got the sack means she got the sack. She was fired. Great. She got laid off. Good. Youngmi Park. Excellent. She got the axe. Great. You guys all know your idioms for being fired. That's quite amazing. So she got the axe. Her head got chopped off. Great work. Let's keep going with this paragraph here. The more you try to avoid the thought from entering your brain, the more likely it is to keep popping up. Okay, so here's an interesting kind of grammatical, there's some interesting grammar in this sentence. We're going to look at this. It's quite common in spoken English and in written English. The more you do this, the more this happens. You can think about it like that. So let's look at this. The more time I spend at the zoo, the more I love animals. What we're saying here is as this thing happens, this thing also happens. The more time I spend at the zoo, so as I continue to spend time at the zoo, I love animals more and more. So this happens too. Now we also use it with comparative adjectives here, okay? So the harder I work, the more tired I am at the end of the day. This is true, right? The harder I work harder and harder and harder. This happens too. I'm more tired at the end of the day. The older I get, the less I care. This is quite true as well, right? My grandma, she is, well, let's just say she doesn't care about much these days, and every year she cares less and less, it seems. And I think that many people can relate to this. The older I the older I get, the less I care. The more you give, the more you receive. It's an interesting concept that seems to be true, right? The more you give to other people, the more you receive. As you give more, you also receive more. These two things happen simultaneously. So let's look back at this sentence from the post. The more you try to avoid the thought from entering your brain, the more likely it is to keep popping up. One more time. What are we talking about? We're talking about overthinking things. So you have a thought that keeps coming up in your brain over and over again. So what is this sentence saying? The more you try to avoid the thought, so when you try to stop thinking about it, the more likely it is to keep popping up. Popping up is a phrasal verb. Think of popcorn. Popping up. So the thought keeps popping up when you try to stop thinking about it. Let's do a little experiment here. I want you to try for 5 seconds, try to not think of a pink elephant, okay? Just for 5 seconds, starting now. Don't think of a pink elephant. What did you think of? I'm guessing you probably thought of a pink elephant, okay? The idea is that when we try to stop thinking about something, we're more likely to think about that thing. So don't try to stop overthinking is what this person is saying. Let's keep going. I want you to finish this sentence for me. The older I get, what happens as you get older? The older I get, the more tired I am, you could say, for example. The older I get, the more money I have, you could say. You could say many different things here. Tell me what your experience of growing older has been like. What has happened to you as you've grown older? Let me know in the chat room here. Looks like we have quite a chatty chat room today. Grace is here with us. Hello, Grace. Andia, it's impossible. Let me see. Patricia from France, hello to you too. Aram, Alan asks, why don't we use much instead of more in your examples? Because we're talking about something that is increasing gradually. So It's difficult to answer your question precisely, but something is increasing gradually. So as this happens more often, then this also happens more often. So it's not doing something in a fixed amount. It's not much. It's doing something gradually. As this happens, this also happens. GoFran says, I see a pink elephant. Great. I think all of you were talking about the pink elephant before. And Vcon is answering Alan Pecker's question. It's the structure. It's just the grammatical structure. Satawat, hello, my friend. I hope you're doing well. And it's nice to have you back in the chat room again. Aram says, the more I am studying English, the more I learn about other culture. Great, Aram. So you could say that more naturally. The more I study English, the more I learn about other cultures. You want to use plural there, cultures. You could say singular too. I think it would be okay, but it would sound more natural that way. Great, Gofran. The more mature I become. Excellent. Adriana says, the older I get, the wiser I get. Great. Or the older I get, the the less I can remember. It's funny how both of those sentences can be true. I agree with both of those sentences, yet they seem to kind of be impossible. It seems like a paradox almost. But I agree with you. Nicely done. The older I get, Alan, you could say, the older I get, the worse my eyesight is, or the worse my eyesight gets. Nicely done. Vikan says, the older I get, the more I have to learn. An LMAO. By the way, Vikan is quite knowledgeable, it seems, with short form texting language. LMAO, for those of you who don't know, stands for laugh my ass off. So when you're laughing really hard, laugh your ass off. Sometimes you'll see native English speakers texting that, LMAO, when something's really funny. The older I get, the more I have to learn. Nice sentence. Satawat, the older I get, the richer I am. Very nice. Well, if you get extremely rich, maybe you can come visit me in Canada and buy me stuff. I'm just joking. But it would be nice to meet you one day. Mai says, I'm more focused on my inner peace. So you could say, Mai, the older I get, the more I focus on my inner peace, you could say. Young me, the older I get, the more white hair I find, you could say. The older I get, the more white hair I find on my husband's head. So use the present there. And that's true, I'm sure. I'm fretting the day when I start having white hair. Actually, not really. I don't really care, to be honest. I say that right now, but... Okay. Lucita-san, the older I get, the less desperate I am. Excellent. Very nice. That's good. I think that's probably true of most people. Hopefully. If the situation if your life is going okay, then I think that's true of most people. Patricia says, the more I study English, the more I am passionate. You could say more naturally, the more passionate I am. The more passionate I become. Nicely done, though. Hooray, the more cautious I get. Ooh, interesting. Nice sentence. The older I get, the dimmer my vision gets. Dimmer vision. Do we really say dim vision? I don't think we use dim to describe vision ever. It sounds a little awkward to me, but I think you could say the worse my vision gets. You could say that. Nur, the older I get, the more I become boring. So I think what you're trying to say, Nur, and this is an important distinction here. I want to focus on what Nur just said for a moment, because what I think Nur is trying to say is the older I get, the more bored I am, or the more bored I feel. But instead, Nur said the more boring I become. And what that kind of means, the way that Nur wrote it there, is the more boring I am as a person, meaning other people will think I'm bored. But what I think Nur is trying to say is the more bored I am with other things. And if that is what you're trying to say, Nur, then challenge yourself. Do some things. Find something that you're interested in. There's no reason to be bored ever. There's so many things to do. There's a great scene in a comedy show that I really love called Louie. And he has a young daughter in the backseat of the car. They're driving somewhere, and she's complaining every 5 seconds about how she's bored, how everything's boring. And the main character, Louis, goes on this long rant about how it's not fair to be, you can't say that you're bored because there's so many different things to do. He says it in a really nice and profound way, but that just reminded me of it. So don't be bored. There's plenty of stuff to do. Okay, I'm going to read a few more comments and then I'm going to get back to the lesson. Okay, let's see. Oh, interesting. Andia, I like your sentence. The older I get, the more I realize my family is everything. Very nice sentence. Grace, the older I get, the more wrinkles I have. Joking, but true. Nicely done, Grace. And thank you to all of you who are living in Japan and Korea and that side of the world there for staying up. It's quite late where you are, so I hope you're enjoying your Friday evening and technically now Saturday. Okay, Mai says, the older I get, the more forgetful I am, the more I am forgetful. You could say that too. The older I get, the more I am forgetful. Nicely done. And Youngmi Park, because I cannot see my white hair by myself. I just look at my husband's hair. Nicely done. The more baldness I get. Nice, Alan. And Fuang Thu, the older I get, you could say the more I care about my health. That would be more natural. Satawat, I wish this was not true. The older I get, the bigger my belly is. Well, Satawat, I know you're a doctor. What are you eating, my friend? Stop eating food that makes your belly big if you're concerned about it. But I think that also just happens to all of us naturally as well. And Youngmi Park and Satawat are talking about bellies now. And yes, of course, the later it gets, the more tired I become. Let's keep going here to this next part of the sentence. I think you guys really enjoyed that grammar point. By the way, you all did pretty well with it, and I was concerned that it would be quite complicated, but if you can master that, it's a great structure to know. We use it quite often in English. It's both in writing and in speaking, so it's good to recognize. Let's look at this last paragraph. Busying yourself with an activity is the best way to change the channel. Busying yourself with an activity is the best way to change the channel. Now, this is a metaphor here. What this author is doing is talking about changing the channel of your mind, kind of. But often we use this phrase, change the channel, to talk about a channel on TV. So let's imagine you're watching the news, and the news is particularly boring that night, or frustratingly depressing, more likely. You could say, change the channel. Let's say you're watching it with your partner. You could say, could you please change the channel? So what this author is doing is using it as a metaphor. Busying yourself with an activity, so doing an activity, making yourself busy, is the best way to change the channel in your mind. So think about your own mind as a channel on TV. It's playing a particular program, and that program is, in this case, negative thoughts are running through your mind. So to change the channel, like you would on TV, busying yourself with an activity is good. That's what this author recommends. The last word I want to look at today, a nice word that I really enjoy. Exercise. Engage in conversation on a completely different subject, or get working on a project that will distract your mind from the barrage of negative thoughts. Listen to the pronunciation there. Barrage. It's not barrage. Barrage. The barrage of negative thoughts. Now, what is a barrage? It's a nice fancy word. We use it in the context of military. And a barrage is like a heavy and continuous assault, okay? So when artillery is firing a lot, when a lot of things are being fired at once, that is a barrage. We also use it to talk about just stuff that is coming at us really quickly, and a lot of stuff. So you could use it to say that a lot of language is coming at you really quickly. In this case, we're talking about negative thoughts. Again, get working on a project that will distract your mind from the barrage of negative thoughts. So you can think of when you're overthinking things, when you're feeling quite negative, you can think of that as a barrage. Your mind is kind of assaulting itself. These negative thoughts, they keep coming and coming and coming, and it's like an attack in your mind. So what is this author saying? To start working on a project to distract yourself. So what I want to leave you with today is a question. What is how to stop overthinking things? We just looked at one method that this author recommends. And what he or she is recommending is to do something that will distract yourself from your thoughts. Sometimes we need to take a break. For me personally, going on a nice long walk is a great way to distract myself when I'm overthinking things. Sometimes I'll go on a walk, I'll see something new outside in a new environment, and that will help distract me. So to leave you today, what activities help distract you when you're overthinking something? What do you enjoy doing? Let me know in the comment section. It looks like we have some people talking back and forth here. There's just some conversations going here. Young me. Right, so a few people who are watching me right now are participating in my 8-week academy. And it's nice to see everyone here. And I'm glad that my teaching makes you interested in speaking English, Grace. Grace and I had a nice conversation this morning earlier, a one-on-one conversation. Okay. Adriana says, would it be natural to say switching gears instead of changing channels? Yeah, you could say that. Changing channels is not a very common metaphor that we use in this situation. It works really well. This author uses it nicely, I think, but you could certainly say switching gears, Adriana. Absolutely, I would say that would work perfectly. You'd sound quite natural. The barrage of thoughts, very interesting, says Young Me. Yeah, I really like it too. I like thinking about negative thoughts in that way. When we're overthinking something, it does feel like a barrage at times. It does feel like we're being attacked, almost. Great, I'm glad. Satawa, this lesson stops me from overthinking about my work. Yeah, anything to busy your mind. For me, physical exercise is really big. Physical exercise keeps me sane, okay? Like a lot of people, I mean, I enjoy working out because, you look good too, but the main reason I love it is because it takes my mind off of what I'm thinking about. And it allows me to kind of reboot, to refocus and re-energize. So let me know in the comment section. In order to stop overthinking, I like to cook. Lo Lucita says, I'm not a chef, but that always helps me to relax. I eat what I cooked. Meanwhile, I'm watching any TV series in English to keep on practicing. That's great, Lo Lucita. I like listening to stuff when I cook too. I usually listen to podcasts or the news sometimes, although that's depressing. I shouldn't do that. But yeah, cooking is a great one. Cooking is very something therapeutic about it almost. When you're cooking your own meal and you're focusing on cutting the food and putting it in the pan and frying everything up nicely, it's definitely relaxing for me too. I agree with you. Nicely done. I like that a lot. And Islam says going out or cooking some delicious food, seeing friends. And so great. You guys all know what you can do to stop overthinking things. Noor says watching Korean dramas. You know, Noor and Young Me might appreciate this. I don't know what Young Me thinks about Korean dramas, but when I was living in Korea, I tried to watch Korean dramas in order to improve my Korean skills, and I couldn't do it. I didn't really like Korean drama style. It wasn't for me. So I'm glad you like it though, Noor. Many people are big fans of Korean dramas, and it's certainly a distinct type of drama, I would say. I've never seen anything quite like Korean dramas. Grace says, I do fencing and slash to distract my overthinking. Grace, I know that your boys do fencing, but I never knew that you were a big fencing person either. That's quite awesome. Good for you. So that is a family to avoid if or a family not to make angry. We'll put it that way. Don't make Grace or her two young boys angry. They are fencing masters. Alan says, thinking about the future like a barrage of sadness and worrying coming across me. Alan, I am sorry to hear that, my friend, but keep working hard. It doesn't have to be. Keep doing things that make you happy. What makes you happy, Alan? Let me ask you that, and you can tell me. Tootie Tud, hello to you too. I read a book or listen to my favorite songs and sing along. I like that, both of those, but I especially enjoy the last one. Sometimes singing can help, opening your mouth and expressing yourself. I agree. Awesome. Young Me Park. Richard Schilling is watching. Hello, Richard Schilling. Richard Schilling is one of my close friends from from Vancouver, who I grew up with. We just did a podcast together, and I'm hoping on releasing it soon, although I think that trying to release a podcast at the moment might put me over the edge, and I might go crazy. So we'll see if I can do that soon, hopefully. But Richard and I had a nice conversation that we recorded a couple of weeks ago now. And hello, Richard. Taylor says, I go swimming with my mom. Interesting. When I'm overthinking about something, I often try to yell or shout loudly in my room or when I'm alone. Interesting. Yeah, there's a great scene in the movie I Love You Man, I think, which is quite a good movie. I'd recommend it if you guys are interested in watching English films, where this one guy is trying to help another guy become more confident and become more confident is a nice way to say it. But he takes him under a bridge and just tells him to scream as loud as he can, and it's a nice scene where this guy who's a little more shy and a little too agreeable and too much of a pushover, he starts screaming and it really helps him. It's a nice scene, so I can understand that for sure. Grace is talking about her fencing. I'd love to see what your boys do in a live tournament, okay? Oh, well, thank you, Alan. Alan says I look more handsome. You know, I was on Facebook before this, and I got a haircut recently, and people were commenting on it, and they were telling me that I look good today, so thank you to you, Alan. I appreciate that, and to everyone on Facebook who was saying. Fung Thu says, oh, I read that one already. I'm just trying to make sure that I did not miss any comments from people. Patricia says, sometimes I drink some beer with friends. Yeah, that can help. That's a great one. I do that too sometimes, although these days not so much. Young Me Park, I should not start to see any first episode of Korean dramas because... So Young Me Park gets addicted to Korean dramas. Very interesting. Satawat, I love running. It's not only distracts me from overthinking, but it also makes me focus on my job sometimes. Yes, nicely done. It probably also makes that belly a little smaller if you're worried about that. So running is a great thing, of course, and I'm just teasing you, Satawat. Yeah, no problem. I like interacting with all of you like this, Young Me Park. This is my favorite part about these live lessons. Nina, good morning to you too. Janina, I imagine. And I just saw your email, Janina. I'll email you back shortly. Vikan, I missed yours. Let me try and find you, Vikan. Do yoga. Nice. You know, I'm trying to do yoga. When I came back to Canada, I've tried so many times to do yoga, to be honest with all of you. And I really know that it's good for me, but I really hate it. It's one of those things that I just can't do. I enjoy exercise and I enjoy high-paced activities, I guess you could say, but yoga I just can't get into. If you can do yoga, it's great though, Vikan. Obviously, there are many benefits to doing yoga. And I think it's an excellent way to distract yourself from overthinking. Marcio is with us. What's going on, Marcio? Yeah, and I just learned Marcio is a dancer, which is awesome. Good for you. And thank you for the compliment about, yeah, well, thank you all. You are all saying nice things about how I look, which is great. Maybe I should go out and I don't know. I was just going to say maybe I should go out and try to talk to women today, but I won't do that. No. Lots of work to do today. And I just got out of a relationship, so I don't want to worry about women for a while. I don't know why I'm telling you all this right now. I'm just talking. That's what happens when you talk for too long. But thank you to all of you. Taylor, I am from Canada. Yoga is kind of a moving meditation. Yeah, it is. It's great. It is great for that. And I think that's the reason it's quite difficult for me too. I have a hard time quieting my mind down in that way. Vikan, can't imagine boys doing yoga. Really, it's quite popular, at least in the West. There are quite a few men that do yoga over here. I'd say it's still predominantly females in yoga classes, but there are quite a few men. I went to yoga maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. I tried a class out, and I think there were maybe 30% men in my class. So it's not so uncommon for boys to do yoga over here. Anyways, that is all the time that I have for you today, everyone. I hope you have a very enjoyable weekend. I hope that if you're overthinking speaking in English or anything in your life for that matter, you can use some of these tips that we all talked about today. And I hope that you learned some new exciting grammar points and vocabulary and that you had a great time. So thank you for being here with me today. Take care. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and I will see you another time. I'm going to try to do this, like I said, every Friday. We'll see how that works. It might be every 2 weeks, but I'll do my best to be here. This was fun. Okay, so take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.